This video, I'm going to talk a little bit about securitization. Ed asked me to talk about this in one of the earliest videos, and I agree. Long before 2008, legal scholars wrote many articles saying securitization was not only illegal but criminal. And it is. The way banks used to do business is they would take in money from savings accounts and people investing in treasury bills and other sources of income and loan it out to people who needed it, who needed loans, like for small businesses or to buy real estate, including homes and so forth. And they would keep the loans on their books. They would keep all the documents. They would collect the loans. And they usually had a personal relationship with the borrower, between the banker and the borrower. And often they were friendly and friends, in fact. And sometimes these relationships would last generations because home loans were typically for 30 years. And those bankers would never dream of committing crimes against their clients, against the borrowers like the banks do. But all that changed with the advent of securitization, which came into existence many years ago. I don't remember the exact date, but I'm sure you can find it on the internet. Originally, securitization was a pretty good idea. It was designed to provide the banks with liquidity and to make available more money for people to have loans. And it can still serve that purpose. Like I've said before, everything has its pros and cons. Everything is good and bad. And securitization has some good things about it. But it's been abused badly by the government and by the banks. And it's used to commit serious crimes. Securitization can be extremely complicated. And it takes a long time to understand. But I'm going to try to make it simple. Basically, in securitization, a registered security is created, so it has to be registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is a good thing because all the documents involved can be found online. And I'll talk about how to do that in just a minute. And this registered security is provided to investors through Wall Street. Oftentimes these investors are big investors. They're pension funds, they're life insurance companies, and similar investors. Sometimes they're wealthy people, individuals, but that's pretty rare. Usually they're large investors. And the idea is these investors are supposed to be the ones who get the loan payments. And therefore, they are the ones who are supposed to benefit from the cash flow. And by the way, virtually anything that cash flows is securitized. All real estate loans, both residential and commercial, all student loans, all credit card debt, even timeshare cash flows are securitized. And all of those securitizations are completely illegal and criminal. So from a legal standpoint, virtually any debt of any kind, other than a private debt, like if you owe money to a friend or family member or something like that, but virtually anything that goes through a bank, any debt can be challenged and usually challenged successfully. Now, related to that, and there is an enormous amount of information about securitization on the internet. A lot of it is for lawyers and it's very complicated. but most people I've run into at least get a basic understanding, and it is explained in the movie The Con. Now, related to that, I'm pretty old, and I never dreamed I would see the day when this would come. Thomas Jefferson said, and I don't have the quote in front of me, but it will be put on the website, that if the banks were allowed to take over the financial system and the money, he feared that more than standing armies, and he predicted that someday it would result in your children becoming destitute. And he was right, and that happened. But he also said that someday the money would be conveyed, the control of money would be conveyed back to the people where it belongs. And as I mentioned, I never thought I would see the day when anybody would try to do that. But I have been shocked and amazed by the fact that Governor Newsom in California is trying to create what are going to be called public nonprofit banks. Can you imagine that? A bank that's not for profit under our capitalist system? But Thomas Jefferson sure knew that was the right way to do it. And I've already contacted the government about that, and I told them I totally support it, and have offered my assistance for free if they want it. I don't think they need me. They're having problems right now figuring out how to fund those banks. And capitalizing and funding a bank is way beyond me. I've had enough trouble trying to figure out the financial analysis of securitization. And by the way, politicians said during the 2008 financial crisis that nobody really understands securitization and these incredibly complex financial instruments that the banks created. And very few people really understand it totally, including me. But you don't need to understand the whole thing. So that's the story on securitization. And like I said, just Google securitization, or better still, Google illegal securitization. And there will be probably millions of postings. So I'll end it there.